Hello everyone, Secret7 here, and I just want to say Happy Halloween to everyone out there. Hope y'all having a good one. I unfortunately have to go to work in a little bit, but I want to get a couple videos out before I go out. And for this first video, I just want to showcase what I've watched throughout the month of October since I did the 31 Days of Halloween challenge. As in that I watched 31 horror films in my collection that are yet to watch. So, without further ado, let's go and get started. And the way I did this, I watched them from oldest to most recent, so that's how we're going to do this. First up, I watched from 1923 a silent film, and that is The Hunchback of Notre Dame, starring Lon Chaney. Yeah, this was a pretty good take on Victor Hugo's story. I believe this is one of, if not the first, feature-length adaptation based on the book. But yeah, I can now say I've seen this, I've seen the 1939 film, and of course I've seen the Disney film. But yeah, pretty good. Lon Chaney was great as Quasimodo. Next up, jumping all the way to 1957, I watched The Incredible Shrinking Man. I know this is considered one of the best sci-fi horror films, especially from the 50s, and I can see why. I wasn't expecting this to be another, like, sort of B-movie type thing, and it kind of started out that way, but then the ending, it suddenly becomes very, I don't know how to put it, very existential, I guess you could say. If y'all seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, really great film. Definitely one of my favorites I watched this month. Next, also released in 1957, I watched The Curse of Frankenstein, which I remember correctly was the film that started Hammer's horror series, I believe. But yeah, Peter Cushing was great as Frankenstein, and Christopher Lee was great as the monsters. So yeah, a very interesting take on the classic tale. Next, for day number, let's see. Yeah, this is day number 4. So yeah, those are the first 3 days. For day 4, from 1960, I watched Peeping Tom. Yeah, a British horror film. I don't know if I guess The Incredible Shrinking Man was British. I don't know. I could be wrong. But yeah, this is a British film directed by, what's his name? Michael Powell, who's better known for films like The Red Shoes and The Life, Death of Colonel Blimp. But yeah, this film is often said to be the film that kind of started the slasher genre, and I can kind of see that. But yeah, definitely a terrific 60s. Next up, another British horror film, this time from 1973, and that is Don't Look Now, starring Donald Sutherland, may he rest in peace. Really great sort of mystery thriller sort of thing, very tragic story, really enjoyed it. Next, also another British horror film from 1973, that is The Wicker Man. This is the original, not the remake with Nicolas Cage. Less bees in this one. Really great. Let's see, the Citizen Kane of horror films. I don't know if I go that far, but this was great. But yeah, Christopher Lee again on here. Great performance. Yeah, overall very terrific film. Next, from 1975, is a Dario Argento film, and that is Deep Red. As you can see, this really nice looking arrow-looking packaging. I've only seen a few of this director's films. I've seen Suspiria, and I've seen Tenebrae, and The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. This was pretty good, I have to say. Very visually striking, great crime thriller with a bit of horror in it. So, yeah, really great. Next is Nosferatu the Vampire, directed by Werner Herzog. This is the remake to the original Nosferatu. And as much as I do love the original Nosferatu, I gotta say, I might enjoy this one just a tad more. I just think the story and how they tell is more intriguing. And it's a good thing I watched this and revisit the original this year, because I am very excited for Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. Just definitely can't wait to see what they have in store there. Next, from 1986, we have Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. So, this is one I've known about because of a lot of the controversy around it, because it is a story about a serial killer, and it definitely doesn't hold back, I must say. But yeah, I thought this was really good, a really disturbing take and look into the mind of, well, a serial killer and just the other people around that. But yeah, not an easy film to sit through, but really terrific. Next, in 1988, we have Pumpkinhead. Not a phenomenal movie. In fact, this might be one of the weaker films I watched this month, but it has a terrific creature in the form of Pumpkinhead. A really great prosthetics there. Really enjoyed it. Heard the sequel sucked, so. Next, in 1997, we have Cure. And I gotta say, out of all the horror films I watched this month, this might be my favorite out of all. This was a really great Japanese horror, sort of crime mystery. I will definitely need to watch this again. I think I give this a 9 out of 10, but it might change to a 10 if I watch it again, because it's, on regards, one of the greatest horror films of all time, and definitely one of the best Japanese horror films, and definitely my second favorite Japanese horror film of 1997 after Perfect Blue. Next up, from 1999, I watched The Blair Witch Project. Yeah, I know it's kind of weird to own this on Blu-ray given the poor quality of the film, but after all these years, I finally watched this for the first time, and I can kind of see why it has such an impact, even though it's not an objectively amazing film, but for what it did for this particular genre horror film, it really made an impact, I must say. But I thought it was pretty good for what it was. Next, we have another Japanese horror film, and I don't think this is the last one. I don't think it is, and that is Ichi the Killer, by Takeshi Miike. I've seen Audition, and while this is not nearly as good as Audition, it's a pretty solid, very brutal, gruesome film. Although I must say the poster is kind of a misnomer, because I assumed this guy was Ichi, but he's not. He's another character. But yeah, really brutal violence, but a lot of fun. Next is yet another British horror film, this time from 2002, and that is Dog Soldiers. I've already seen The Descent, that's a different movie. The Descent, and while this wasn't as good as The Descent, it's still a really fun movie about soldiers fighting werewolves, and the werewolves themselves look incredible. It's mostly, I'm pretty sure it's all prosthetic. I don't think there was CGI used. I could be wrong, but really fun movie. Next is a film I've been meaning to watch for a while, and that is the directorial debut of Jay Bayana. That is the 2007 film The Orphanage, which was also produced by Guillermo del Toro. Really great start for him, but yeah, I can now say I've seen most of Jay Bayana's films. The only one I've yet to watch is Society of the Snow, which that's definitely on my to-watch list real soon. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. Very tragic story. Probably one of the most tragic horror films I watched this month. Next is the Korean horror vampire film from 2009, Thirst, directed by Park Chan-wook, the same director of Old Boy, one of my favorite films of all time. Didn't enjoy this as much as Old Boy, but this was still a very unique take on the vampire mythos, in that it's not really a supernatural take, but it's more of like, I guess, a biological take in a way. It's kind of weird, but very strange, but kind of long, but pretty solid film nonetheless. Next, we fast forward to 2010 with another Korean, I think this is Korean? Yeah, another Korean horror film, Bedeviled. Wow, was this intense, insane, and also has a pretty sad ending to it, but man, do you feel really bad for this character so much, and when a certain part of the film happens, you are so satisfied. Next is one that I'm definitely going to have to rewatch again in the future, and that is Under the Skin. I know this is one of, I think, the Misfit Pawn's favorite films ever, as well as Ralph the Movie Maker's, I believe say this is one of his favorite movies ever. And it's definitely a very unique take on the sci-fi horror subgenre. Don't want to say too much about it because of spoilers, but then again, this film's been around long enough. I'm assuming most people have seen it. But for those who haven't, great film. Scarlett Johansson is amazing in it. Next is Mandy from 2018. This is the Steelbook. Nicolas Cage was great. He doesn't go like insane Cage mode until like the second half of the movie. Really great story about him playing a character whose wife was murdered by these cultists, I guess. And yeah, if that doesn't pique your interest, I don't know what will. And then the rest of these horror films are all horror films of the 2020s I've yet to watch, but now I have watched. First, there's Possessor, the uncut version, that is, which everyone says is superior, by Brandon Cronenberg, the son of David Cronenberg. Really great sci-fi horror film, a really unique take on the possession concept, but with a sci-fi take on it. But yeah, really great, very brutal. Yeah. Next from 2021 is Titane. Not sure how you pronounce it. This is a French movie, I believe. This was probably one of the strangest ones I watched this month. It's about this young woman who's kind of on the run from murdering some people, who also has a love for cars. Maybe a bit too much, if you know what I mean. But yeah, really pretty solid film. There is a lot more meaning to it, especially towards the second half of the film. Surprisingly, another pretty tragic story when you really look into it. Next is Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho. I know this film didn't get the best reception when it came out. Personally, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, maybe not as on the level of some of Edgar Wright's other films. It's no Baby Driver, it's no Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and it's definitely no Cornetto trilogy. But I thought it was a really interesting take about, it's kind of a time travel, but not really, and it sort of has this theme about what happens when you're too blind in nostalgia, especially for a time period that you weren't even around in. So, really pretty entertaining, very visually striking film. And then for This next one, okay, I know I've been labeling the days here, but this would have been day, let's see, day 20 was Possessor, then day 21. Okay, so this would have been day 23. So technically this is just 3 movies I watched, but they're part of a series, and I'm talking about Ty West's X series, starting with X in 2022, its prequel, Pearl, also in 2022, and then the sequel that came out earlier this year, Maxine. This was a pretty solid film series. Pearl definitely be my favorite of the bunch. Mia Goth is just incredible. X was pretty solid, but I will admit it probably should have been 15 minutes shorter, and it did remind me way too much of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Maxine, probably the weakest of the 3. In fact, this might be my least favorite of my new watches this month. I mean, it was okay, but it could have been better. Next is a horror comedy, Bodies, 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 a movie that's for the Gen Z generation, but also mocks and makes fun of the Gen Z generation in a very aggressive way, and it's pretty damn funny, I have to say. Yeah, the characters got pretty annoying, but that's kind of the point, so watching them get axed is kind of satisfying. And it does have a really great and kind of funny, if not morbid, twist at the end. Next is Alex Garland's Men. This film got quite a bit of mixed reception when it came out. I personally thought it was okay. It was pretty solid. Didn't like it as much as Ex Machina or Annihilation, but it's a solid film that will probably warrant a rewatch. So, yeah. Next is an animated horror film. Well, an animated horror fantasy war film that's Spanish, and that is Unicorn Wars. I've seen the director's other film, Bird Boy: The Forgotten Children, which I absolutely loved, and this one is almost as good. The animation is definitely more beautiful than in that film, and it's definitely one of the most brutal and bleak animated films you'll ever watch. But yeah, if you ever want to see Carrots fight My Little Pony, there you go, with sort of a All Quiet on the Western Front, Full Metal Jacket vibe to it. Next is Nope by Jordan Peele. I've only seen Get Out. I still have not seen Us yet. But I gotta be honest, if this may be a hot take, I think I like this more than Get Out. And I thought Get Out was good, but I didn't really get the hype around it. This one I found myself enjoying more. I know, I just really liked it. I liked the alien design that ended up being in the film, so really great alien abduction film. Okay, got 4 more films left. Got The Menu, starring Ray Fiennes and Anna Taylor-Joy. This is less of a horror film, more of a dark comedy. But either way, this was a lot of fun. A very interesting look into like the food world and food criticism and just stuff like that. But yeah, a pretty great, solid film. Next is Talk to Me. Again, another really tragic horror film that came out in 2022. That I liked. I wouldn't say I loved it as much as a lot of people did, but I liked it. It was a very interesting, really short, but still interesting, if not tragic story about these kids playing around with this haunted hand or something, and it all goes horribly wrong. For day 30, I watched Infinity Pool, the other horror film of the 2020s by Brandon Cronenberg. Not as good as Possessor, but it's a very solid take on just cloning, I guess. And what it does with it is really horrifying and very complex and, and just question humanity and such. Very interesting film, I must say. And then earlier today, for Halloween, I watched a Korean horror film that came out earlier this year, and that is Exuma. Kind of a slow film at first, but it does pick up in the second half, and a very interesting kind of supernatural story involving this coffin. Pretty great. Probably one of the best horror films of the year, at least out of the ones. I mean, I've only seen this and Maxine and Alien Romulus, which might be my favorite horror film of the year. So yeah, those are the horror films I watched for this year's October. So tell me, what horror films did you guys watch for this October, and which of these horror films do you like? And well, hope y'all have a great Halloween. Unfortunately, I gotta go to work in a little bit, but I do have one more video I want to get out before I go, so I will see y'all then. So have a happy Halloween, everyone. Later.